really we are put into this nation to really, I guess, witness God's hand move in a way we never could possibly imagine.
Welcome everyone to the first ever episode of Thinking Theologically podcast, right? And it's a place where we have to understand what the Bible tells us and how we make sense of it to the world around us, especially in the 21st century. And right here, we have a familiar face, right? Briefly introduce yourself.
Okay, I guess a bit about myself. Hi everyone, my name is Joash. I am 23 this year. Wow. I am doing my degree in biomedicine in Sunway. Currently doing my internship. Yeah, what else do you want to know about me?
Favorite food?
My favorite food? Oh, yeah, definitely a mix between chili pan mee and banana leaf rice, but more inclined towards banana leaf rice.
Yeah. If some of you recognize Joash, right? He is last year we interviewed him on Insta Live to ask him as a student whether he should vote. Right, and you can watch it on FAS Malaysia Instagram to see what it is. And the reason why we call him in again, right, is because now that the government is formed, right, how then should we now as a Malaysian Christian respond to all of this? And we're getting his perspective once more because, he was one that voted, then what now, right? Does he stop voting? I just made my finger blacker, what is it? So that's the question we are now. For starters, Joash, maybe three simple questions, right? The first question is, how do you feel as you came to witness this new government being formed? What are some of your thoughts?
I would say my first thought was why is this taking so long? Because it took I think around 2 weeks, a good 1 week plus, right, before in between the whole election and then the actual election of the Prime Minister and things like that. So I think between that whole time span, my initial thought process was, okay, this is taking really long actually, and to some extent I did lose track of what was happening. But then actually once it did happen, once everything was settled, once everything was announced officially, it was then where I could actually see the whole big picture of how everyone was actually very happy with the outcome, I could say, for the most part. And it was then that you could see how everyone was going like, oh, our voting kind of paid off. Or some of them did say like, oh, we still voted, but why is the outcome such and such? So there are two sides to it, but for me personally, I was more towards the, okay, cool, this has happened now, and let's see where this goes.
Okay, and what are some of your hopes as you are now as a nation that you're hoping to see throughout the next term for our Prime Minister?
Okay, honestly, the first thing would definitely be for him to fulfill his promises to the people. For sure, it's going to take a long time. Even now, we may not see what's happening in terms of what he's doing, but hopefully, by God's grace also, that in due time we'll slowly see the fruits of his labor, as well as the Parliament in general really taking that step to really make that difference which they promised. One thing other people.
What's next? If I'm a Malaysian Christian, what more a student? Mm-hmm. What's next? What do I stop praying?
Don't stop praying. I don't know. For me, it was, I guess, going through the whole thing, right? From the start of actually, elections are happening, and then okay, I need to know a bit more about politics. And then actually voting, and then okay, now I'll wait for the results. Just in that whole process, right? I've really learned to just wait on God and see what He can do. This is me from a Christian perspective, but as a student also, just wait and see how the outcome will be. There's nothing much we can do currently, but to really just see how it goes, how it unfolds. And of course, if you're not happy, then we still have the power to do things. Can bring it up to the necessary people if necessary also.
And when you say don't stop praying, I was reminded of 1 Timothy 2:4, where it says 1 Timothy 2, where Paul urges Timothy in all prayers and supplication to not stop praying for the kings, the rulers, because God wants everyone to be safe in that sense. Yeah. But like, just share with me your thought process when you pray for your country. How does that work? And don't tell me how often you pray.
Every day, okay. My thought process, definitely, it was never, okay, put this person in charge, but really put the person who would be able to actually bring this country into a better place, or bring its people to a place where we can, I guess, really see your glory in that way. And for us ultimately for Malaysia to be a country that glorifies your name in whatever way it might be. Yeah, that's always the way I pray. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. And coming to an end here, and thinking your thought process, right? Because the words you say, you pray whom you know, right? And another posture that you were talking about was how now that we have seen this go through, is this idea of waiting and seeing and waiting on the Lord. What are some biblical principles that you can tell our audience, to hold on to as a Malaysian Christian in this process of nation building?
Okay, wait. I forgot the verse. Okay, but actually, I think that the verse you actually shared during the Instagram live was on Esther, right? Let me go look at it real quick.
Yeah, sure.
Esther chapter 4 verse 14. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. And yeah, I guess in the whole process of waiting also. And I think nation building is definitely more. It doesn't stop at voting, but definitely more than that, to actually be involved and being a steward for Christ in your role as a citizen. And that in itself, I think, is an opportunity for us to hold on to what Esther 4 says, to really, who knows that really we are put into this time of nation building for such a time as this, to really, I guess, witness God's hand move in a way we never could possibly imagine. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing, Joash. And the reminder I have, I guess, as the Malaysian Christians, is drawing the verse from Esther, right? I think it is to no surprise that what we have witnessed now, all you Malaysian Christians at this current time are partakers of this reality. And as partakers, I think the call in nation building as both a Malaysian and a Christian continues on. I'm reminded of how these Pharisees were trying to trap Jesus and say, who should we pay taxes to? Jesus says, why you want to trap me? So trap better lah. Takes out a coin and says, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and give to God what belongs to God. And so I guess the reminder here is, we are here for this opportune time. What is it do we give ourselves as Malaysians, and what is it do we give to as God, right? And what are we being called to in this current space? Yeah. Any final thoughts, any final ideas you want to just let them know, encouragement?
Probably just hold on to hope, hold on to God, because He is our only hope, no matter what circumstance it might be, even if I'm not talking about nation building, but just hold on to God in all circumstances.
Thank you so much, Joash. Will you hold on to God, right? Yeah, I guess that's all for our first episode on Thinking Theology podcast on the topic of nation building, and what we can do as Malaysian Christians after the voting process. And if you hear from Joash, right, you can message him. He's all the way in Sunway Geo. Call him out for makan, right? And then you can hear more of his thoughts. But for now, that's all for us from FBS Malaysia. Thank you. I'll catch you soon, guys.
Bye-bye.